Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's live tour. This is today's June 29th. My name is Noah. I'm a tour guide here on campus. And today's live tour, we are going to be covering special features on campus, a lot of the great different labs and barns on campus we'll be covering today. We will have two groups. Ginny and Lauren will be one group. Ginny will be the tour guide, and then Lauren will be the camera person. And with our other group, it is Aaron and Avery. And Avery will be our tour. Avery will be our camera person, and Avery will be our camera person, and Aaron will be our guide. And then as we're going through, please feel free to ask as many questions as you like throughout the tour, and we'll be happy to answer them as best as we can. Our first stop today is going to be at the Child Study and Development Center. We'll be covering, go to the Child Study and Development Center, the Fairchild Dairy Research Institute, the Exercise Science Lab, the Chase Ocean Engineering Lab, and then lastly, the UNH Museum and Special Collections. So we can introduce our groups today. So that's Lauren. This is our camera person.
Hi, Noah. Can you see and hear me?
Yeah, you sound great. All
right, awesome. Hi, everyone. My name's Ginny. I'm going to be a senior in the fall in Human Development and Family Studies, and I'm from Auburn, New Hampshire. Right now, I'm standing outside of the Child Study and Development Center. We usually call it the CSDC. This sign behind me is kind of their logo based on respect, love, peace, kindness, patience. Those are kind of the core aspects of this space. The Child Study and Development Center is focused on giving students at UNH the opportunity to observe child development and classroom dynamics. So there are classrooms here ranging from infant age to preschoolers. They host classes all throughout the summer and the academic year. I personally participated in a practicum here in their preschool program. My freshman year, actually, the second semester. So that was a really great fieldwork experience that I had right off the bat. But I'll talk a little bit more as we're walking to our first spot here at the CSDC. You can see the front of the building here. So inside here is where all of the classrooms are held. And right now we're going to walk through some green space where the children are allowed to play. And we're going to check out their garden, which is a huge piece of the academics and experience here at the CSDC. In addition to being able to be a student here and doing some coursework here, the CSDC also offers work study positions. So students of any major are allowed to apply for those positions. You could be somebody in psych or human development, teaching majors, things like that. But really, they've had students from all over the campus want to get involved with working with children and enjoying that time here. This first space here that Lauren's panning around for you is the garden. So this is where students have the opportunity to work with kids on sort of those farm to table projects. So the children at the CSDC come out here and they plant the seeds at the beginning of the season. They watch them grow, make observations, and then they actually get the opportunity to harvest their crops. And then inside with their teachers and the student teachers from UNH, we'll help them to cook with those items or make something new with the food that they've grown. So when I was speaking with the director of the CSDC, she just kept telling me that nature is really such a core part of their curriculum, and they want students to have an appreciation for the artistic and the practical uses of a garden on their property. Are there any questions so far, Noah?
There are no questions so far.
Okay, great. So right now I'm going to walk us through to their outdoor classroom, actually. So the CSDC is right on the edge of some woods over this way, and they've set up an outdoor classroom there. So when I was a practicum student here, I actually got to take my class out here several times. And one of my favorite memories was when we took the kids out to work on two of the projects they were doing. So the first one was that they were building fairy houses out in the woods. So they were collecting materials out in this space, and then using them to make little homes and things for their fairies. And then the other one was collecting rocks because they were doing a rock painting project with another group of student teachers. So you can see this space here has some little chairs for the kids to sit on. It has a picnic table to hold a lesson. It's nice and shaded, so on hot days like this, they'll take the students out here to read books or to color, work on different art projects. And they also do several scientific experiments out here too. So it's really a versatile space for them to use for learning opportunities, and it's getting kids out in nature, which is something that's really important for any aspect of development. And then our last stop here at the CSDC is going to be to go inside. We're going to go and check out one of the preschool classrooms. And just a reminder for viewers too, if you have any questions about this space or anything on campus, really just let me know and I'd be happy to answer them while we're still on camera here. So this classroom here at the CSDC is called Preschool 2. So this is a place where they'll have students ages 3 to 4. This classroom is set up in a lot of different stations for students to use. So you can see over to the right, we have an indoor garden with fairies and play. So play is a big part of child development and how they learn. So they really kind of tie that into a lot of their curriculum. This space over here is a dramatic play area, so the kids can play kitchen or family games. There's an art station next. So working with different motor skills, fine motor, writing, reading. We have the main circle area. So this is where they will do different activities as a group and helping the kids to work together. Your typical things like the weather and different jobs and things. And then as we pan left, you'll see the building area for children to be working with more gross motor skills and problem solving. And then the last space over here is one of my favorite things. When kids are getting a little too energized when they're indoors or just need a break, they're actually able to go and sit in this area and read a book or work on some other classwork that they have, bring their energy down and just have a better day at school. And then from a student perspective, as somebody who is a UNH student, one of the coolest things that's offered here at the CSDC is an observation booth. So this black looking window here is a booth that is mostly one way through. The kids don't really pay enough attention to it to see you in there. But if you're a student like me wanting to come here and observe child development and take some notes, you can sit in this booth here and the teacher will continue their day as if nothing is different. And you'll get to take naturalistic and objective notes on how the kids are interacting or how the teacher is choosing to teach them, and just things that are really valuable for students interested in human development to see and observe from a very objective standpoint, and then being able to make more subjective findings and write about those things later on after they discuss it with the professor. So I think that kind of, do we have any questions from anyone, Noah? Can you still hear us, Noah?
Yeah, I can still hear you. It's kind of it is a little choppy, but we do have one question, and it is for you. It says,
Okay.
Ginny, what was your favorite part about working at the CSDC?
Yeah, so I think I have a little bit of a longer answer to that, but really the first greatest thing about it was that I made a connection with a professor my first semester here at UNH and really got to know her well and learn about her research. And typically the coursework that starts your practicum in the CSDC doesn't begin until your junior year, but I got to know the professor so well that she gave me permission to take the class my freshman year. So I was really diving right into this experience my second semester in college, which to me was just so valuable. And my favorite thing about working at the CSDC was the opportunity to interact with the kids and learn how to lesson plan. So care for that point, I was pretty used to general childcare and having the opportunities to talk with kids. But here at the CSDC, I had two of the teachers that work here as my mentors, and they helped me to write different lesson plans for each of the academic domains. So like things like nature, math, science, reading and writing, gross motor skills. So we dance and do things like that. So that was definitely what I liked best, was getting the opportunity to really apply the skills I was learning in class with the kids in the classroom. Are there any other questions?
That is our only question, but thank you so much. That was a great answer.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching this part of the tour. Noah will continue us on heading over to Aaron at the dairy barn, but I'll see you in a little bit at my next stop.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, our next stop is going to be at the Fairchild Dairy Research and Institute barns, and Aaron will be our guide for the day. So,
hi guys, can you hear me and see me okay?
Perfect.
Good. Okay. So hi, my name is Erin. I am a rising senior here at UNH. I am actually an animal science major on a pre-vet track. So we are at our dairy barn here right on campus, and I have spent quite some time here throughout my 4 years at UNH. So this is our Fairchild Dairy Teaching and Research Center. Over here, we have our Keener Dairy Research Building, where a lot of the testing goes on and everything like that. So we do have our dairy barn. We will actually walk down over there very shortly. But kind of to orient yourself around campus over here, if you want to pan over there. So this is Main Street right here. And then Thompson Hall and all the other academic buildings. If you just walk down Main Street right over there, it is literally right there. Where Ginny and Lauren were, the CSDC is actually right behind the dairy barn over there. So just to kind of orient yourself around campus just a little bit. So it is kind of off of the academic buildings. But we just don't have our dairy cows here. We actually have greenhouses. We have some plants and everything. And then our high tunnels, which is located right over there. I actually have a class next semester in those high tunnels. I'm taking a chicken class where we actually raise chickens, we say from egg to slaughter, which is a little sad, but that's okay. That's part of the animal science program here at UNH. So if you guys actually do want to follow me, so here at our dairy barn, we have about 90 milking cows and then 70 growing and replacement cows. So we do calf our milking cows and everything like that. And then we also have our 20 cow herd that is for our cream class. So our cream class is actually for our animal science majors or our dairy management majors here at UNH. And that is our cooperative for real education in ag management. So you can actually take a class and then have your own cow for the year and calf that cow and then milk that cow. And that is kind of like your baby for the year. That is located in this barn over here is where our cream cows are. We have our milking barn over here. We have the pasture out back over there as well for our cows that are not calving currently. But as an animal science student, I really, I do spend a lot of time here. It actually started in my freshman year. I started spending time in the barn, which is really awesome. Starting from the first year you're on campus, getting that in like real experience, real hands-on experience. Are there any questions so far, Noah?
There are not any questions so far, but yeah. Okay,
so we are actually heading on into one of our cow barns. So you get to see our little baby calves are over here right now. I always like to show off our calves. Nice. But here at UNH, so of course, this is one of our, it's a little loud, I'm sorry, it is a farm. But here, so in addition to this dairy barn, you saw the greenhouses and those plants. So that is actually part of our sustainable ag and food system major. So they will actually grow fruits and vegetables right where you saw that in those greenhouses. For our dairy bar on campus, which is a part of our train station. They have salads, they have sandwiches and all of that fun stuff. And then any food that isn't eaten at the dining halls gets actually composted and goes back to those greenhouses that those SAPS majors can work with. So we do, especially here at the dairy bar and with those greenhouses, sustainability is a huge thing that plays into this. So a part of this kind of research area right now, it is actually a part of the Ag Experiment Station, so the Agriculture Experiment Station. So every single state in the country has their own agricultural experiment station. And New Hampshire's is actually located right here at UNH. So right in this dairy barn right here. So it's a part of the New Hampshire Land Grant Mission. So public research goes on over here. Professors can conduct the research that goes on here at the Fairchild Dairy Institute as well. And it's not just dairy research that goes on. We have soil research that happens, crop research that goes on with other professors in our Tulsa College, so our College of Life Science and Agriculture. And of course, those public research opportunities as well. But basically the whole point of the Ag Experiment Station, it's funded by the state of New Hampshire. And the whole point of that is to really mitigate climate change instead of contributing to that climate change. And that is why sustainability is a huge, huge aspect of what we do here in these barns. And also we have our horse barns located down Main Street a little bit and some more greenhouses down there as well. Any questions so far?
Yeah, we do actually have one question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a question coming from the chat, and they asked, can regular students visit the cows?
So the dairy barn is actually open to the public. So it's open from, I think it's from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. So students, people that don't attend UNH can come visit the cows as well. Usually they are in the outside barn over there, but just because it's really hot outside, they're in this barn right here. But students that are not even animal science, so I'm an animal science major and I get the opportunity to work with these cows and do research with these cows. But even if you are an animal science major, you can still kind of have fun with them and come visit them. This is Susan right here and pet them and stuff. They're actually really, really awesome. And they were all born right here. So any other questions, Noah?
That is the only question. Thank you.
Okay.
So
like I said, in my freshman year, they have work study opportunities. One of my friends, who's another animal science major, she's actually working here in this barn over the summer, which is really awesome. But again, like I said before, step foot in this barn. There are no other questions, and I think that's it for this stop. So thank you for joining me at the Fairchild Dairy Research Institute, and I will see you after Lauren and Ginny take you guys to the Chase and Ocean Engineering Lab, and I will show you guys our exercise science labs.
Great, thank you so much, Erin. So yeah, and then just in a few minutes, we will have Ginny will be returning, and they will be showing our Chase Ocean Engineering Lab. Yeah, and so if you are interested in anything ocean engineering, please feel free to leave a question right in the chat. We'll be more than happy to help you out. So yeah. So yeah, and then if anybody does have any additional questions about anything they've heard today, please feel free to ask in the chat. And we should be getting started relatively shortly. Does anyone watching think they would be interested in, like working with the dairy barns, working in the Child Development Center? I think it would be great to, just see some cows every once in a while just to de-stressify. So, yeah. Great. Well, it looks like Lauren and Ginny have just rejoined us. They will be showing the Chase Ocean Engineering Lab. Yeah. So being here, so me personally here in Durham, I love being here in the summer. It's definitely a lot of great activities. I love to hammock on Thompson Hall lawn. So at the UNH website, Thompson Hall, it's one of my favorite places to do. And now we got Ginny ready to show at the Chase Engineering Lab. So welcome
Hi,
back.
Noah. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yep, you sound great. Sound great. All good.
Awesome. All right, so welcome everyone. Right now I'm standing kind of right in the center of the Chase Ocean Engineering Laboratory here on campus. I think this is a space that doesn't get enough attention, and I got to have a personal tour yesterday to share this information with you, and I'm really pumped to show you around. So I'll have Lauren kind of do a pan of the space while I tell you a little bit about it. First, the Chase Ocean Engineering Laboratory is home to the Center for Ocean Engineering, the Center for Coastal and Ocean Mapping, and the Center for Ocean Renewable Energy. So there's really a lot going on here, and this is just one part of it. UNH is also a new lead university in the Department of Energy Funding and Atlantic Marine Energy Center. So definitely some new things going on here. The first piece of equipment that I'd like to show you is over this way. It really looks like a big swimming pool to those who don't know what it is, but this here is the engineering tank. So this tank measures 60 by 40 by 20 feet, so it's quite large. That yellow beam that you see at the end there, that is the acoustic profiling tower, which is used to test and calibrate hydrophonic transducers. The tank is also used for wet testing of vehicles and devices before they go out to the open ocean. So these are things like autonomous unmanned vehicles or buoys that they'd be using for research in the ocean, and they test them right here in the lab before they send them out. And kind of a fun fact about this tank is that during COVID, they actually used this as the dive tank because the pool was not open. So they had diving students come in here and use their equipment right here in the engineering tank. And Noah, just let me know at any point if there are questions.
Will do.
The next piece of equipment in here, we'll get a better look at it in a second, but this here is the wave and tow tank. So this one measures 120 feet lengthwise, and then it's 12 feet wide and 8 feet deep. Research on towing test bodies and subjecting them to wave action is really what's taking place here. That silver beam that Lauren is showing you right now is the tow carriage. So it's hooked up to devices such as turbines or other structures that will be used in the ocean. And it's attached to this beam for testing. It can be subjected to both waves and that tow, as I was saying. The blue paddle that you can see at the other end is used for wave making. So it uses a hydraulic wave generator to produce 2 to 5 second waves that can be up to 0.5 meter in height. So they're really simulating those real world environments here in the lab for students. And then finally, this black part over to the left here that kind of looks like a mesh is used to control the environment in a test. So again, really trying to simulate what it would be like at a beach on the shore and getting those coastal and ocean experiences for their equipment. And students use this tank primarily to test scale models for the open ocean aquaculture installations, turbines, wave energy converters, and more. So both of these tanks are what students are coming here to use most of the time. Next here in front of me, we have this water pump here. There's not too much that I know about this tank itself, but what I do know is that Chase Ocean Engineering Lab is used externally quite often by other companies and researchers. So this white pump is actually someone's current project at an engineering company. The Ocean Engineering Lab also does a lot of outreach with local schools and communities. So they do something called Ocean Discovery Day, where they bring in, I think it's 7th through 12th graders. So later middle school and high schoolers get to come in. The manager here was telling me this whole space has like 1,500 students looking around, testing the equipment. And they bring students in, for one thing, to teach them more about the ocean, but also to recruit for their program. So the ocean engineering program here is actually only 60 to 70 students. So it's very individualized and small. So that's, about 15 students per year. But ultimately, they do want to expand this program and have more students getting involved. So Ocean Discovery Day is a great way for them to do that. The next piece of equipment is through these windows here. So this is an AUV, an autonomous unmanned vehicle. This boat is fully autonomous and is used for mapping the ocean. It's deployed off the coast of New Hampshire, and it's actually controlled remotely. So what they do is they put this boat into a trailer to bring it over to the seacoast, and then that trailer actually takes out the AUV and then becomes a command center on shore. So the boat goes out onto the water all by itself, and then students and professors are controlling its work from the shore. Any questions so far, Noah?
Yeah, so how easy would it be to get involved in research, maybe something in the ocean engineering lab, or just generally research on campus? What would be the process for that?
Yeah, so actually the Ocean Engineering Lab is a great space for research. I'll talk about the specific research opportunities in a minute, but kind of a cool story that happened yesterday was I was here with one of the other admissions interns looking around and getting to know about this space. And one of the professors was saying how he always has research projects, but can never get business students to join to do the business planning for the projects. And Avery happens to be a business student. So she actually got the opportunity to connect with him and talk about joining his research team that he just got approved for this fall. So really any student can get involved here. Have to be an engineer to do research in Chase. You really do need a multidisciplinary team in order to accomplish those goals, which is really cool. So actually, we're lucky enough that we can see that some work is being done on one of these buoys. So this is a CO2 buoy that is deployed out onto the ocean. One is always out while the other is in for routine maintenance, which is what you can see happening here. And I was going to mention to you that I actually saw someone working on it yesterday, but now we get to see people working on it again today, which is really neat. And then this next is one of the pontoon boats that the lab has. So Chase Ocean Engineering Lab does have several boats for testing and collecting data. This one specifically is a pontoon boat that has been modified so that the bottom of the boat is actually covered in instruments used for collecting data in the water. And most of the lab equipment that you're seeing today is made here, but those that are purchased are heavily modified in order to accommodate the data collection and instrumentation that they're wanting to use for their research. And then this last piece of equipment here that I want to share with you is called a wave energy converter. So this WEC was actually a senior project of UNH undergraduate students. There's a scale model over here that they made for kind of testing things on a lower level. And then the real thing itself is over here that Lauren's showing you now. This yellow part here is actually a lightweight apparatus that's used to bounce with the wave energy. And then the center would be fixed in the ocean. The original design was made to generate power using wave energy, but it's actually been modified for new use as the students were working on this project. So the new design is actually used for pumping water, and it's been deployed on aquaculture farms and right here on the UNH campus to bring nutrient-rich, better water up from below the ground. So research has actually shown that using this energy converter to pump water actually is improving crop yields because it's getting better water for the plants and then ultimately adding to the success of the farms. So we're not just really thinking about the ocean here. A lot of these projects can be reused and redesigned for other environments. And then the last space that I want to show you today in Chase is one of the research labs. So this is where students have the opportunity to test their equipment. There are several other labs in this building, and this is just one of them. There are a lot of research opportunities at Chase that include ocean and coastal mapping, sustainable seafood, renewable energy, environmental modeling and ocean oil spill response technology, and then ocean acoustics and dynamics. So as I was saying earlier, you don't necessarily have to be an ocean engineering student to be involved on these projects. Avery was recruited as a business student, and there are several other ways that you can get in contact with this lab, but I just want to encourage everybody if they get the chance to come out here, because I'm going to be a senior and this was my first time here, and I think that's a bummer. So definitely come check it out and get involved with some of these projects. Noah, are there any questions?
There are no additional questions, but just some excited students. Somebody who said, oh, this is actually wicked cool. And I got to say, I agree. I've never been to the engineering, like the ocean engineering, and being able to see it for students who are interested in this stuff, like this is a home run for them. So.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you at my next stop.
Great. So our next stop is going to be in New Hampshire Hall, which is home to the exercise science. Erin will be showing us around, like she did with the barn. And yeah, so we got some time before the next stop. So yeah, my name is Noah. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm a summer intern in the admissions office at UNH. I really like Durham up here in the summer. I've never spent a summer in Durham. The warm weather is always a plus. I love walking around, okay? And yeah, and I can hear Erin okay, so we can get started.
We're having some audio issues where I am not entirely able to hear you, so we'll figure it out, but that's okay. We're here to show you our Robert Kurtzer Exercise Physiology Lab, and we are actually here with our department chair, Dr. LaRoche. So you want to introduce yourself? I kind of already did. But.
Sure. I'm Dane LaRoche. I'm a professor in exercise science and chair of the Department of Kinesiology. And I'm going to take you through a quick spin of our exercise physiology lab. So come on in. So this space is used mostly by our exercise science students, our undergraduates and graduates. It's also used for faculty research. And we have a couple different areas. I'll take you into our exercise biochemistry lab over here. And this is a traditional wet lab where we, we'll take blood measures, plasma measures, urine measures, and measure things like inflammation, blood lactate or lactic acid, glucose, cardiometabolic risk factor measures like your cholesterol and triglycerides and those sorts of things. Undergrads don't spend a lot of time in here unless they're doing an undergraduate research project, but our graduate students and faculty use it quite a bit. This we call our vascular, and we have a couple here. We have a phlebotomy station where we take blood samples from folks. We also have a gurney over here, which is used for some lying measures of arterial stiffness, and so we can actually use some non-invasive techniques to measure blood flow through our arterial system and look at how those arteries react when they're challenged with occlusion and then reopening. or if somebody was put in a position like a supine or an upright position and how they respond.
So is this a class, like you said, phlebotomy station, is there a phlebotomy class that you can take or Vascular Lab?
Not in our department.
Okay.
Students in the past have taken phlebotomy classes because they want maybe they're doing an undergraduate research project and they need to get blood samples to be able to do that. So they'll get trained in phlebotomy, which is a great skill to have. They sometimes work on the side after they get that certification.
That's awesome.
More often, our students use finger sticks, and all of our students do that.
Okay, awesome.
This is kind of the open classroom section of the lab. We have courses, we'll have lab sections. And so the students will meet in here. You know, we might talk about something, then we'll go and collect some data, and then they come back and do some measurements. So this is kind of used like a classroom space. We also have over here, it's a hot tub, but it's not used for that. If you notice the scale above it, it's used for hydrostatic weighing. And this is the gold standard for body composition measurement. So the density of water is 1, the density of lean tissue like muscle and bone is 1.1, and the density of fat is 0.9. So muscle and bone sink and fat floats. And so by getting somebody's underwater weight, you can actually determine their body fat percentage. It's kind of fun. We have a couple labs for students.
God, I did not know that's how that worked. That's awesome.
And this space is used for a dynamometer. We actually have a couple of these. We have one in another lab downstairs, but it's a machine that's set up. You can zoom in over here if you want. There's a resistance arm here that can be set up for different activities like knee extension or knee flexion or ankle plantar flexion or whatever. And it's a very accurate way of measuring muscle strength and power. So it, just like a commercial fitness facility, you would have a knee extension set up like this. Participant would sit in here, they kick out their leg as hard and as fast as they can, and the computer measures how much torque they generate and how much power. It's a great way to quantify strength. We use it in athletes all the way up to older adults if we're interested in studying like how lower extremity function impacts somebody's ability to move around in their environment.
So you said you use like everyone uses with athletes, but do you guys work with athletes on campus to actually kind of do testing with them here?
Yeah, so it depends on whether there's something in interest. So all our hockey team with us, we have laboratory-based measures of muscle power, like sprint power and a cycle ergometer. We've done stuff with basketball in the past, with skiing, cross-country skiing primarily in the past. But for the most part, it's usually if we have a study, oftentimes the athletes will volunteer to be participants and they'll be over here. Yeah. Or students will, if they're doing a research project, they'll recruit people to participate. And sometimes they include athletes and sometimes not.
Awesome, that's great.
Yeah. And I'll take you to the big section of the lab. So this is our main exercise physiology lab, and our students spend a lot of time in here. Like the first courses that they take in the sophomore year, where they really learn how to use all the equipment. But then as they progress into the senior year, they work with our employee fitness program. And what that is each student gets assigned 3 to 4 university employees. And these people volunteer to participate in the program. They come in, the students do all kinds of assessments. They do like a 12-lead electrocardiogram with a stress test, so they're walking and running on a treadmill. They do measures of body composition, strength, flexibility, and so on. And then they do personal training throughout their senior year. So the student is the trainer and the employees at each of the clients. And so it's kind of a win-win situation. So we have a couple of interesting pieces of equipment. This treadmill here actually has force plates built into the deck. And so it can measure the ground reaction forces as someone is walking and running. It can measure stride length, stride frequency, and the forces that people are generating. It has an overhead safety harness, because I use it in studies of older adults. And if they were to trip and fall, it automatically shuts down the treadmill. This is a high-speed treadmill. It'll go 30 miles per hour at a rate. It has a really long deck, so if you get a high-level sprinter on there, they're able to sprint as hard as they possibly can, and they want to exceed the length of the deck or the capacity of the treadmill. Next to that is a metabolic part, that black computer system that you see over there, and that's designed to measure energy expenditure by oxygen uptake, but it can also tell you about the carbohydrate and fat breakdown as far as the amount of energy that's coming from one or the other. Tells us about ventilation. You might have heard of VO2 max or rope capacity. That's the device that we use to assess that. Which is really important for athletes, particularly endurance athletes, but it's also important for everyday individuals as that VO2 max measure is closely related to health and your general physical performance. There's a 12-lead electrocardiogram over there, blood glucose and lactate analyzers on the bench, cholesterol machine to measure blood lipids and blood glucose, and then some cycloergometers. The white ones on the left are the traditional mechanically brake ergometers. They basically have a rope that goes around and a weight tray. Device for power output and things across like all the labs. But the one next to it over here, the sleeker looking one, is electronically braked ergometer, which is really accurate to within like a watt, and it's computer connected. And if you're working with high level, cycling athletes, it's completely adjustable, so you can actually mimic the bike setup that the person has. So it's a little bit fancier. And then this right here, this big white building, or our room that you see, is an environmental chamber. And we can control the temperature and humidity in there. So we can drop the temperature down to about 33 degrees Fahrenheit, so just above freezing, and then all the way up to about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So we can simulate cold weather and hot weather exercise. We've done studies in there on exercise-induced asthma in the cold. We did a study with firefighters in the heat, wearing all of their gear. It's a little known fact that firefighters are actually at much higher risk for heart attacks and strokes than other people, because they're not always in the best shape, and then they go running into a burning building. It's really intense. They're wearing, lots of clothing, they're carrying heavy things, and then after the fire, it's over, sometimes they'll have a heart attack. And so everyone's in retreat. Yeah. Any questions that you have?
No, are there any questions?
There are not any questions, but I thought that was really interesting. I've never been in New Hampshire Hall, but a lot of great resources for students, a lot of great hands-on, but no questions. But I just thought this was just a really cool part of campus and something that really makes UNH unique. So,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Can
I
you
had
hear
to
me?
connect to my AirPods because I could not hear what you just said. Can you repeat
No
that one
worries.
more time?
Yeah, no problem. We don't have any additional questions, but I just want to say this was a really cool stop. I've never getting to learn more about like New Hampshire Hall and the hands-on materials, just all the labs and stuff. This really makes something that makes UNH unique. So
Yeah, so like you said, this building, this lab is actually located in New Hampshire Hall, which is one of our academic buildings located right on Main Street. If you have been on campus, it is right kind of in front of our Hamel Rec Center, which is our gym. Convenient for exercise science, I feel like. But there are no questions, but our host was actually just saying how this was actually really awesome, because I personally, me included, did not know that this existed, that this went on. So thank you so much for showing us around. You did a much better job than I could have. So.
And I will add that we also have a biomechanics laboratory downstairs with a motion capture system that you might have seen in the animation industry, where the reflective markers are tracked in 3D space. We use that along with a force plate in the ground to get some three-dimensional biomechanical measures.
That's awesome. All right, no, I think that's all set for us. If you want to head on over to Lauren and Jenny in the library.
great. So yeah, our final stop for the day is going to be back with Lauren and Ginny, and they're going to be showing us the UNH Museum and special collections in the library. So looks like they're ready now. So here we go.
Hi, Noah. Can you hear and see me okay?
Perfect. All good on my side.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. We're on our last stop of the Special Features live tour today. I'm down in the UNH Museum and Special Collections, and we have Emmeline here to show us around.
Hello, I am Emmeline Dane. I work here at the University Special Collections and Archives. We are in the basement of Dimond Library, well, in the first floor of Dimond Library, and we have about 18,000 feet of books, manuscripts, and university records. UNH, you probably know, was established in 1866 in Hanover, and we moved to Durham in 1893. And Special Collections was established in the 1980s. And this, many people have seen this under tours. This is Maizie, and she's about 100 years old. She was our third and last live Wildcat mascot. She lived in one of the fraternity houses, and then she would come out, but we got just costume mascots after her. So she is always a high point of tours. And she sits here in our rare book and New Hampshire collection. And after her, I wanted to show you out here some objects that we have that I pulled that I think are pretty cool. So right here, we have manuscript, a music manuscript by George Malacott, and he was from Whitegate, and he was a fiddler. He was probably a ship's fiddler, and he would have gone back and forth across the Atlantic, playing for sailors and playing for dances. We have a huge collection of Anglo-American contra and square dance materials here, and that includes important collections such as those from Ralph Page and Ted Sinella and Dudley Loftman, as well as thousands of recordings. In terms of other genres of music, we have Amy Beach. So she was an important New Hampshire composer, and she lived from 1867 to 1944. And we have a lot of jazz recordings. We have a lot of popular music in sheet music from the early to mid 20th century. So yeah, a lot of people come from all over to come and look at the Amy Beach collection. In terms of other sheet music, we have here a chant book, which is one of two, and this dates from 1485. And this is something that would have been on a monastery altar, and somebody would have sung from this and helped the congregation sing. But what's really cool, this is from 1485, but what's really cool is the paste down sheet in the front. So this is like a recycled sheet of vellum that would have been used inside the binding of the book. And this is probably 200 to 300 years older. So this could go back to about the year 1100, which is pretty neat. And we do let people come and here is a railroad promotional, like they'd hand out a party favor or something for the railroads up into the White Mountains in the late 19th century, because there was a huge tourist trade where people would come from the cities and they'd go up to these huge hotels up in the White Mountains. So this is, I love the bumpy maps, and you could see there's the White Mountain Cog Railway going up onto Mount Washington there. Just pretty strong in local histories. We have town reports from all the New Hampshire towns going back to their foundings, and maps and a lot of historical photographs too. And what else? Oh yeah, genealogy. A lot of people come here for genealogy. So if you have New Hampshire relatives, maybe you could come here and look at them. We have a lot related to the colonial history. So this local area was settled in about 1620. And speaking of people settling here, I want to acknowledge the fact that this is Pennacook land, and we are part of the Wabanaki Confederacy lands here on UNH campus. And we thank them for their stewardship of the air and the water and the land in general. So we have a lot of stuff from the Civil War also. I got that one out of order. So here's a little Civil War diary. We're pretty strong in collections related to the New Hampshire regiments in the Civil War. This is from the 14th Volunteer Infantry Regiment. We don't know who kept it. It's anonymous, but it was probably an officer or a clerk who would have taken care of the payroll, would have taken care of food rations. You can see there's some water damage. It would have gone in his pocket to various places, who knows where. but we have a lot of Civil War letters, a lot of photographs from people's families here. We also do a lot of classes with the history department. So people from the history department will come over and do primary source material research with us. We have materials from the First and Second World War. We also have a lot of materials from the anti-war movements and also from the anti-nuclear power fights in this area and from the fight against the Great Bay Oil Refinery, which was a huge oil refinery that they were going to put in Great Bay and the Isles of Shoals in the 1970s, and it would have destroyed the entire ecology and scenic nature of this area. And so we're very grateful that it did not show up here. Yeah. And right over where Ginny is standing is something else that a lot of people come here to see, which is the Betty and Barney Hill collection. Betty and Barney Hill were a couple from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and they alleged as to how they were abducted by aliens in 1961, and they wrote a book about it. And what a lot of people don't know about Betty and Barney is that they were an interracial couple, and that Barney in particular was really active in the NAACP in this area, in the areas of housing discrimination, in equal pay, in working against desegregation. Barney also sat on the United States Civil Rights Commission. So that's a pretty cool aspect of their story that doesn't get a lot of press, but I think it's a really important part of their story. Here, you may have seen a movie recently about the Negro Motorist Green Book. And this is a directory of places where people who were Black could stay when they were traveling. So even though Jim Crow was never official policy in the North, many of the laws and certainly the culture did enforce the fact that African American people could not stay in the same place as white people. So this came from the collection of Hazel and Clayton Sinclair from Kittery, Maine. Wonderful people. They operated the Rock 1976, and this is Carolina, New York, where we have a pretty neat collection from the Rock Rest. It has guest records, knitting patterns, photos. We have Hazel's camera. On a related note, we also have the collections of the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail. And that's a pretty important thing that the scholar Valerie Cunningham has put together about the history of African American people, both enslaved and free, in the Portsmouth area, starting about 400 years ago. So we're grateful to have that. And then we have the Gay Student Organization at UNH. So this is from the University Archives, which has to do with the university records rather than larger New Hampshire history. So the Gay Student Organization was a bunch of people, a bunch of students here on campus who were gay or bisexual or identified somewhere along the non-straight spectrum and wanted to have an organization of their own. So they did, but the governor of New Hampshire at that time, Alderman Thompson, objected to what he saw as the misuse of state funds for funding an organization like that. So it went to court, Supreme Court, and the New Hampshire Supreme Court upheld the right of the Gay Student Organization to meet and be an entity on campus. So pretty thrilled about that. We have the records of that fight. We have the records from Tom Bonner, who was our president of the university at that time. So we have that pretty well documented. And I like to think that UNH is a little bit more friendly towards people these days, but Yeah. And the last item I wanted to show you is something that's from the rest of the University Archives collections. And this is some of our old library records. So here is the first book that we had entered into the catalog in 1892. And it is a political science and constitutional law book published in 1891. So in addition to records like student organizations, we also have the records of the library. We have records of the presidents, all the presidents of UNH, sports, football's a really popular one. So if you had a grandfather who came to UNH and always told you the stories about how he was the quarterback and he was the best football player on the team. Well, if you ask me, I can go back and look at his statistics and I can let you know if that's true. And let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, we have basically records of all aspects of the university going back to the beginning. We are open for anybody and everybody from 10 to 4, Monday through Thursday, and we welcome people to make appointments. You can just email us at archives@unh.edu, and we are quite happy to have you here, answer any questions. Yeah. Do either of you have
Well,
any
we do
questions?
yeah, we do have a couple questions actually. The first,
I have a couple of questions. Sure.
Sure. Yeah. So the first question is, so are students able to use these items to do research with?
Mhm. Yep.
Great.
We
And-
love it
and
when
then-
students come in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Some classes
And
have
then-
assignments that use primary source materials as part of their curriculum, and then some people just come in because they like to play with what's here, and anybody's welcome to look at anything.
Great. Thank you. And our last one is, what is the oldest item you have in the archives? What is the oldest?
Well, we have some rocks. Those are old in geological time, but probably the oldest made by humans is probably the paste down sheet in the flyleaf of the chant book that I showed you earlier. So that's maybe 800 to 900 years old at this point. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
A lot of our stuff's newer.
Those are-
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Emmeline, for showing us around the library. And Noah, I'll send it back to you to close out our session.
Great. Great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you really did enjoy getting to see a bunch of the facilities, the ocean engineering, exercise science, the archives in the library. If you guys do have any further additional questions, you can email them. You can email at admissions@unh.edu. I will put that in the YouTube chat. So if you guys do have any additional questions you think about throughout the day and you want to ask, please send it to this email. And then afterwards, later today, this video or this stream will be reposted to the YouTube page, and you guys will be able to watch it later. So, yeah. Well, I thank you again, everybody, so much for joining, and we hope.